we are going to be exploring some of our armies in a new series we're going to call Meet. So today, we're going to be meeting the Ashen Fists, my own Space Marine chapter. So, let's go ahead, and I'm going to hand over to Callum, and he's going to be asking me some questions, and this is going to help us explore exactly what makes the Ashen Fists different and what makes them dear to me. So, Callum, why don't you take this away?
All right. So let's start off with probably with an obvious question: is what got you into Space Marines in the first place?
Space Marines are one of those sort of armies that is iconic in a lot of different ways, and when you sort of see them, you do get that image of impressive power. Perhaps it's just the way that the shoulders are modeled to be larger than life. You get this sort of like heroic scale that comes through that gives them this real sort of strength and heroism. Now, I wasn't always drawn to them. My main army of choice when it comes down to Warhammer 40,000 is the Necrons, and we're going to look at those guys later in one of these other videos. But the Space Marines, what really drew me to them was the idea that every man in that army is a hero in their own right. And you can maybe tell these little stories about them, which has led to me making the foolish, foolish decision to give every one of my models a name. That's fun.
Have you managed to give every single one of them a name?
I think I am falling behind on a Stern Guard veteran squad. Half of them have names. I think I need to drill up 5 more, but there's only so many different names I can think of and give a vaguely pseudo-Latin spin to, like Gregorius or whatever, or Samael, which is not even that sort of Latin-y. It's more of sort of a Hebrew-y, angelic vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some examples of ones you've already gone with. So I think that could lead into a question here of what makes your army, your Space Marines, special? Different to other Space Marine armies. What's your own personal
Well,
touch to them?
I play my army, the Ashen Fists, as an Imperial Fist successor chapter. So for those who aren't necessarily familiar with 40k and the lore around that, the chapters were these huge legions of super warriors that, in order to try to protect the stability of the Imperium of Man, they were broken down into smaller units of about 1,000 Marines, with a couple of little caveats to, allow people to sort of skirt sideways around these rules. Now, the Ashen Fists are a bit more unique than just, oh yeah, we're Imperial Fists, we're really good with bolters, we're just going to shoot you, shoot you, shoot you, shoot you, shoot you. They've had a bit of a mutation occur in one of their gene seeds. So when a Space Marine is made, they're given a number of these augmentations, which give them superpowers. Things like a second heart, an additional kidney, a better liver. Their skeleton literally becomes like suited armor. Really crazy stuff. And then there's some things that are a bit more out there. Now, one of these organs is called, let me just make sure I get this right, the Omeophaga, or Remembrancer as it's called. And what it allows a Space Marine to do is when they eat the flesh of a creature, they can sort of pick up bits of its memory. And this is sort of allows them to be like really great trackers and investigators, because they can literally like see in like a brief sort of bad acid trip. Yeah, the sort of history and background of these creatures that they're pursuing and killing. Now, the Ashen Fists have had this sort of explode into overdrive. Now, when they eat the flesh of a creature, they gain all of its memories, all of its experiences, and by extension, sort of get tangled with its own soul in the warp. It sort of becomes part of them, which is a terrible thing to have happen. And so the Ashen Fists are a vegetarian Space Marine chapter. Okay, these vegetarian super warriors, because if they were just to go and say eat some beef, they had a nice they cooked up a nice roast dinner or whatever, and this cow had at some point maybe been exposed to demons of the warp, it could have been a heretic sort of chaos cow, and it wouldn't be good to suddenly have a whole bunch of your marines, first of all, confused as to whether they're a cow or not, and second of all, trying to uh, work out whether they share the beliefs of this cow in one of the ruinous powers. And so none of the Marines are allowed to eat real meat. It has to be synthetically processed by the Adeptus Mechanicus for them.
Hmm.
However, they do have these cool rituals that you'll undergo if a venerated member of the chapter is defeated in combat and they've not been able to, recover his body to be interred into a dreadnought. So things like the chapter master, for example. Every chapter master eats the flesh of the chapter master before him, and by extension has eaten the flesh of all chapter masters in going back to when this mutation started to develop. Meaning that these guys have got an incredible legacy of knowledge and skills at their disposal. So that's what really makes them different. Their heroes are not just a hero in themselves, but they're the heroes in succession, like this sort of. They don't just take up the mantle of their predecessor; they are, in part, their predecessor and the sort of continuation of that line.
I just like how you got this army of, it's like vegetarians, yet they are led by people
They're
who
led by cannibals.
cannibals.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I got some sort of vibes for that from the Flesh Terrors Space Marine chapter,
Mm.
and when it came down to the Imperial Fists, I really like the sort of like the stoicism of Rogel Dawn, but like that recognition of the need to compromise in certain circumstances that led to effectively the chapters and the Imperium as we see it today.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's a nice uh, story actually, for your, well, kind of the background for your army.
Yeah.
Um, so in a way, since you've been able to put your army together, what sort of grand moments have they had on the tabletop
Well,
to
let's
kind of
go ahead.
add to this?
Let's go ahead and break the video here as I try for the first time to pull up an image for us to take a look at. This is a learning experience. Let's see. Aha, there we are. Let's save that. Okay, we should be able to see that on the video now. So, what are the grand moments? Well, you know exactly what my grand moment is with these Ashen Fists, Callum, because I'm sure your orcs are gonna rue the day since Hell Avenue. So Callum and I, we were at Warhammer World, and we had the luxury of, effectively using that place as our local store, really, wasn't it?
Mm.
And we're in the gaming hall. We've got this lovely board set out. Maybe a bit in my favour. It was a lot of like narrow alleys, not necessarily something that orcs in a large tide would have fought through, but it was a fantastic narrative moment. And a huge wave of, I think it was, had you mobbed them up? It was either 30 or 40 orc boys. I think you'd mobbed them up, and there were two knobs in there. It was pretty. It
There,
was
there
pretty
were two
brutal.
knobs in there, wasn't there? Yes.
And
So they would have had to be mobbed up.
So you'd mod them up, and I'd taken a unit of 10 tactical marines, and I'd separated them into the two combat squads. One that had my heavy weapon guy, my special weapon guy, and the sergeant in this one squad. And then the other, which was just 5 normal marines, whose job was literally just to take an orc charge and stop them progressing. It was a 5-man space marine screen. So these 40 orc boys with 2 knobs in comes screaming wah down this alleyway, and my guys receive the charge. One of them goes down. One of them goes down. The others fight back as good as they could give, and I think they downed a couple of boys. It wasn't anything substantial, but they like vastly outperformed the orc boys in combat.
I mean, we've got to remember here. We've got, say I think I was probably running power claws on those two knobs at the time, and then you have all these boys that
Yep.
do three attacks because of their choppers. There's plenty of them still, so you get the +1 if there's more than 20. So you're looking at then five attacks each
Yeah.
from this all these wallies just throwing dice, and
Just
then
walls and
somehow
walls of dice, and save after 3 plus save after 3 plus save after 3 plus save is made. Fantastic. So these four guys, one of them went down, stand. Start of my next turn, I fall them back into range of my apothecary, pop the dead dude back up. And Terminators moved in with heavy flamers, and those orcs had a very, very bad day. So on the screen, you can sort of see those 5 tactical marines. I've actually promoted them since then. They've now become half of my Stern Guard veteran squad. The half that has names, the other half is just some Stern Guard veteran models. But these guys are exactly what I'm interested in. I've gone ahead, and you can see I've given them all these little red bands on their knees. They've been coated with extra purity seals. The shoulder trim has gone from being yellow to gold. And we were at Warhammer World, so on the day I was like, I'm gonna promote these guys up to Stern Guard. I went into the Forge World shop and we chatted with the guys there. Got myself a hold of some Kafrachi Terminator combi bolters, I think it was. So that's what they're all equipped there. They all went up from being just bolt guns to combi bolters, because 2 points for double the number of shots, worth it. So worth it. And power sword on the captain, on the sergeant there. It's great, and all of them on their shoulder heraldry, rather than just having the volcano symbol for the chapter underneath, they also have Hell, HEL, written in red, because they are the champions of Hell's Avenue.
Yeah, and you need to make sure you highlight that. And of course, whenever I face them, I will always remember that moment and have to second guess whether I should charge all my boys into them or not.
Yep. Especially now that
Uh,
they live in a drop pod with a bunch of guys as flamers, and
yeah,
the successor chapter tactic for plus 3-inch range to their weapons. Hop out a drop
yeah.
pod, kill a lot of boys.
I
A
think
lot
the
of
last,
boys go down.
I mean, last time I played against them, I remember them just breaking through one of our flanks, and these guys are just a real pain. They've always caused me suffering.
Yeah,
So,
admittedly, that's because Space Marines are very, very strong at the moment, and I'm hoping to see that with the points coming for 9th edition at I suppose the end of this week. Really, it's Monday at the moment as we're recording this, and hopefully this should be out way before Saturday when the new chapter approved drops with all new points values. But hopefully they get brought more into line with the other armies
yeah,
around there. We can only hope, I suppose.
we'll have to wait and see.
Yep.
Of course, I think I've seen some speculation at the moment, but so I just wanted to be official before I say anything.
Yeah.
So with that, we move on to the next question. So with this army,
Yeah.
I say, what is your sort of favorite way to play with them? Like, what sort of style do you typically go for if you are playing with them on the tabletop?
I'm restricted mostly by it only being a small force. I think, though, actually having said that, I think if I count it all up, I have 100 Marines, so I have a full company in a chapter. That's if I assume that there's a Marine or two driving every tank I've got.
So only 100.
Only 100, yeah, compared to you who've got that in your troop choice.
I think I got that many Gretchen.
Well, one Gretchen's not worth a Marine. So, they're worth 2 or 3 at this point, I think.
Well, there were 3 points, but of course that's going to change.
So, how do I like to play with them? I do enjoy a bit of a gun line. I think when it comes down to Space Marines, I I recognize that the whole rules behind the Devastator Doctrine, the Assault Doctrine, and the Combat Doctrine is this idea that Space Marines deploy. They gun the heck out of everything in front of them. They move forwards, shooting things down as they move, and then they charge into close combat in these sort of like rigid, regimented steps, as per the Codex Astartes. Um, though I really do like the idea of it being much more fluid than that. I prefer sort of a first turn of big guns, never tire, shooting the heck out of everything, kill it as much as possible. That's good, but the next two steps of advance and shoot, and the final step of charge in and kill, I don't think that needs to be separate. I love having that lovely hammer and anvil of I charge in, guns blazing, impact the line, and then have all that, one extra attack for the what is the rule called? Well, it's part of the Angels of Death, like cluster of rules that just makes shock assault might be called. That just makes Space Marines so devastating on the charge, and it's this idea of just these guys are the thunder hammer to crack a nut.
Of course, the time I've been playing them, I know that they are a really good balanced team. And as I know you,
I'm
like your
not so sure
Necrons,
about balance. They're just a really good team.
well, I mean, when I say balanced, I mean they have,
Oh yeah, across
they've
their
got
range, they got a huge spread of stuff that they can
yeah.
do. And with Indomitus arriving this weekend, although I'm being told by my girlfriend I'm not allowed to crack into it, I am looking forwards to having a bunch of assault intercessors so that I can, make you sad by being better at you in close combat.
Well, we'll see about that.
Well, I don't know. I can bring 10 orcs that have got a 3+ save and 2 wounds each.
Sure, but can they take on the mighty Admiral's forces?
Don't know. We'll have to find out in the next video.
We'll have to find out, yeah. So that could lead on to, so you got, as you say, think you've got like 100 Space Marine, but you're thinking it's not maybe as big as your Necron army. So in a way, is anything you're thinking that you could add to your army, things that you would be interested, maybe because it would boost your army in some way, or just because you really like the model and you never had the chance to
I mean, with
paint?
Indomitus, I've got the captain, the lieutenant, the ancient, the chaplain. I'm trying to think. The Blade Guard veterans, the assault intercessors, and 2 units of 5.
Be plenty to work on.
I've got so much to work on, man. The three Primaris attack bikes. Not sure what I'm gonna do with those. I don't think they really fit into like my idea of how how an Imperial Fist successor chapter would play. I feel like it's going to be much more decisive, like steady blows. So the bikes could be interesting. I'm not sure entirely from what I'm going to do with those. But then my girlfriend, Georgie, she does have this very nice Imperium Space Wolf force. So there might be an opening there. Or I might look to trade out those bikes for either something more for my Necrons, or see if I can pick up maybe some more Eradicators. I think they're called, these absolutely beefy Primaris guys with these huge anti-tank weapons.
Ooh, anti-tank.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they would be effective against me, but
I mean,
it's still a people.
Looking at them, they look like, effective or not, they're going to be pretty ghastly to be up against. Yeah. They're going to bring a whole new meaning to the Devastator Doctrine.
Well, I can't wait to see this. See how the vehicles will die to a breeze. So let's, with your army, what would you consider being the things you're most proud of? What's when you go on the tabletop, what is the thing that really stands out in your army for you?
I I always love to bring my chapter master model. So we were talking a bit earlier about how these guys are uh, fortified by the memory of their legacy, going back several iterations of their kind, just through the consumption of flesh. And the current chapter master of the Ashen Fists is a man named Thordium Krimgar. Pretty powerful, you know, baritone name. So he is currently the wielder of the Ashen Fist, which is the chapter relic of the Imperial Fist. Really, because there is a limitation on the tabletop, it is just played as a power fist with a combi flamer. But on the model, you might be able to see on the right hand side there, his power fist is just underneath it. It's got a flame attachment built on here, and an actual like a canister of fuel on the end of his elbow. And he could just be punching away at someone and just torching them across the face with this flamer. And I always sort of say to myself, maybe it should be a melter. Maybe it should be like a combi melter instead. So he runs up to a tank and melters it, and if it's still standing, he punches the molten remains to pieces. But no, I mean like a power fist isn't a great anti-personnel weapon, especially if you're pummeling termagants or boys apart. And so just having a flamer really just adds to that. He used to carry a storm shield, but with 8th edition and the sort of restriction on how much you could customize your characters, that became a bit. It wasn't tenable to keep up that feel of having the Ashen Fist in the army, and so he carries now just a bolt gun. And I did this absolutely lovely modeling piece. It'd be a bit much to call it a conversion. But let's see, that's the Space Marine Commander model from the kit that lets you build your ancients, apothecaries, lieutenants, all that sort of kit. And it comes Space Marine Command kit, gives you 6 models. Really nice little kit for converting. And yeah, I just stacked them up on some cork base because all my army comes from this volcanic planet called Volcranar, and so I've modelled them all as being on this this lava rocky base. And I've raised him up a bit more, so he stands about 3 or 4 millimeters higher than the rest of the army. Not substantially so, but just enough to give him this real like presence. And just the way he's aiming that bolt gun down looks like he is driving with purpose, clambering up onto this edifice and just holding the line and saying, "This is the limit. No farther. You will not pass."
I definitely do
Love
get
that
kind of. Yeah, I do get that feeling from him when you just look at him, especially when he's like, you have like an orc boy in front of him or something, you see him with the storm bolter pointing towards his face. So
it's just a bolt gun, not a storm bolter.
all right.
But yeah.
But I mean, how early on was that in your kind of Space Marine collection?
I think he was the first guy, actually. So this army, I was playing Dawn of War with some friends in my World of Warcraft guild. And we did this game where it was the 3 of us. We weren't very good. And we played... we all decided to play Space Marines and put like 4 max difficulty bots against us and just try to last. And so we all dressed ourselves, our army up as the same chapter. We went on to GIMP. We downloaded GIMP and made a little like file to put a shoulder decal onto all of our dudes in the army. And we went from there and just played the game. And we came up with this like really funny idea because each of us was a different company. So I was like the first company, led by my captain that I could recruit, my Space Marine commander. He wasn't. He was like the actual like chapter master. So I called him Thordium Grimgar, and we came up with some memes about it. We came up with like a second company captain, Cedric Turan. Third company captain, Thadu Lamus, who was also like the chief librarian or whatever. But he was also like he had like crippling OCD. He had to, because the guy who was playing it always organized all of his bolter turrets to be like placed at a regular interval, and then all the Marines had to be lined up in a nice regimented fashion. And so we joked that he had this like crippling OCD. And when we did
It's
another
interesting for
run
to have in
through, we
battle.
had another. Yeah, when we had another, when we did another run through, we had another guy join us, and his guy was Nate Bronwyn, and we really didn't know what was going on with the game, and so we joked that Nate Bronwyn was actually just really lazy. He just likes to sit overhead in a command ship and do absolutely nothing when it comes down to the course of the battle beyond what he absolutely has to. And we had a
Makes you
joke.
wonder how he got into his position.
Yeah, it does. It does make you wonder that. We used to joke that he was really lazy, but hey, could he hold a defense? You know, don't send him out on crusade. You're not going to get anything done. But if you want a planet
Just get him to
protecting,
defend.
somebody else ship him there and just leave him to it. And so,
That's brilliant.
and so I was just like, hey, I like this. Let's just make a model to commemorate it. So I went onto eBay and I found the model of. I don't have it around here anymore, I don't think. No, I don't. I found the model. One of the heroes of the chapter. He's got the big storm shield, and he has the big power axe. And I cut off the power axe, and I bought some. I bought the Power Fist and Flamer template, which is the same on this model as it was on the original one that I made. And I carved out the hilt of the power axe from the fine cast. Oh my word, that was carving fine cast and realizing that there is so much model that just isn't model. And I did this like really early on into my modeling career as well. Like I was not good at converting. I've gone back relatively recently to look at some of my older Finecast models, like Isabella von Carstein, and I've just discovered that like a part of her that I painted as the model, it's sprue. It just needed to be clipped off. So that gives you a feel for like what I was discovering as I was cutting through this, and that was sort of one of the highlights to me, that I can't just like take the obvious bits of stuff off of one of these Finecast models. I need to really sit down and work at it. And so that's where we ended up building this piece, and I built him, and I thought, that's pretty nice. What could I do next?
Pretty nice understatement.
Yeah, it then led into a start collecting Space Marines, which gave me a guy that I decided to make the first company captain, and shamelessly named after myself as Landis. And I keep thinking maybe I should change it, but I don't know, I'm attached to it now, even if it is a bit cringy that I've named it directly after myself. But it's still nice to have a great like self-insert into these adventures, because ultimately it is a story that I'm telling. And if I can tell it about myself, sue me.
No, I like that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think, in the end, as I say, it's your personal thing anyway. So, go name them whatever you want, if it's after yourself. No, it's nice. Reflects a bit of yourself into your army.
So,
yeah. So right. I also got interested as well, because you said about the base. You made it kind of like volcanic.
Yeah.
In a way, it's like its home planet. So how did you get about doing that?
Well, there's how I went about doing it and how I should go about doing it going forwards. And I'll touch on the latter one because it's a bit better. So, corkboard. If you go on Amazon, you can buy some insulation cork tiling for like £5. No, actually, no, let's think we've got 11 quid, and we got like a stack that thick of tiles that are about that thick. And it's simply a case of, do I have some lying around here? Here we are. So you get some little tile like this. Okay, you can sort of see how thick that is there. And it's just a case of I grab a base, if I could, let's grab one of these out here. Really rudimentary example for a moment, and we can certainly look at making a video explaining how to do this a little bit in the future. So I got my base, and I just take my cork and I hold it on top of the base, and I just start tearing around the outside. And that just gives me a disc with which to work with. And then I break bits of that off and just hold it together using super glue and stack it up into these little mounds on the base. And by stacking it up into these mounds, that gives me a sort of like a rock structure. When it comes down then to... and that rock structure, that's what you can see that I have done on Thorium Grimgar's base here, just on the other side of the screen. When it comes to the lava, one of the best things to do is go ahead and grab yourself some modeling putty, some two-part epoxy putty, something like green stuff, for example. Knead some out, roll it into little balls, leave it to cure a bit, and when it's still got some sort of like springiness to it to bounce back, grab a nice sharp knife. You can use like a kitchen knife if you want, just be really careful if you're a kid, ask for help. And you can cut these balls in half and you create little bubbles effectively, and you can glue those bubbles onto the base just using some super glue. Go ahead then and grab some neat PVA glue, wood glue or Elmer's glue it's called, I think, in some parts of the world. I just have a vastly big bottle that I don't actually know where I've put. Sort of yay big. It's got like 2 liters of PVA glue in. I used one of those for like the last 10 years, and in the last year I've just bought a new bottle. So really lasts, that stuff. So just spread that neat over the base to give a sort of even layer, and that will give you a smooth lava sheen. And then your little bubbles that you've put in place, they'll create the little ridges for that sort of like trapped gases pushing up through that thick syrupy lava. Seems odd to call lava syrupy, but it is like really, really thick and viscous, and you want to have that sort of like density to it, where it's like, even though the air is nearly at the surface, it's still being held in. Then I'm going to base the whole base white, and I'm going to work up in layers of... I did dry brushes, and I think that would be the easiest way of doing it. If you wanted a better result, you might want to look at glazing and blending. Not something I'm going to claim to be really, really good at, but what does make it really, really easy is contrast paints like Iandan Yellow worked alongside Blood Angels Red. So contrast paints, not everyone likes them. Really, I think they're a tool for a toolbox. They work fantastically as glazes. So what I do is I paint the whole thing white, and I'd start out with a thin layer of Iandan Yellow over most everything, leaving some white in like the very hottest points. So it's going to be in the very middle of the lava, but more or less. So lava's going to have these issues where it's cooling all over the place. You're going to get cold spots and hot spots. So you're going to want to leave some of these hot spots visible, probably just away from the air bubbles, away from the edges of the rock, and the edges of the lava flow. But they're not going to be like... It's not going to be like a nice gradient like you'd do if you were, say, painting a river, where you're going to have like the darkest bit in the middle and then slowly work outwards. You can leave your hot spots in different locations that will add to the natural nature of the lava. And then you're just going to build up another layer or so with Iandan Yellow, just to give you that deeper glowing yellow colour. And then you're going to want to start working in some Blood Angels Red to tilt it away from yellow into that sort of orange colour. And you probably don't want to go all the way with Blood Angels Red. Only a very few select areas where you get that sort of like really deep red glow. And then you're going to want to work up with things like Dryad Bark, which is a base paint from Games Workshop, a sort of a burnt umber, dark brown color. And then on through, and I wouldn't go for Abaddon Black. Abaddon Black will work fine. That's a nice deep black. However, paint like Corvus Black will give you, in the sort of very, very dark grey area, will give you a far better result. If you then sort of like layer up with maybe a stippling effect, or even just a straight dry brush to, give the images of this warm, craggy rock and this sort of colder basalt. That'll give you your gradient from really hot liquid rock all the way up into the stuff that's solidified in these extreme conditions.
So, could you make a guess for how long it would have taken you to have made a base like that?
Doing the dry brush method, I'd sit the bases all down, and the longest period is waiting for the white base coat to dry. Because after that, when it comes down to dry brushing, there's no drying time between those layers. It's just fan, 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 dry brush done. Next, fan, 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 and it gives you a very reasonable result. The skill is all about layering the pressure of your dry brush, starting with a very heavy yellow dry brush and then going on to a lighter red, yellow, sort of orange dry brush, and then a slightly lighter red dry brush, a slightly lighter brown dry brush, and then a lighter black dry brush. And on the rocks, it's all about catching, but basing it sort of brown, and then building up through black to get the variance in that tone. You can also look into putting a wash on there. The glazing method, that's going to take a lot longer because you are going to be looking at leaving the contrast to dry. If you did a batch of maybe 10 bases and you took it sort of steadily, you put like a video on in the background, just listen to some music and had a nice time with it, you could probably do all the bases in one sitting just by doing the yellow all the way around and then doing the oranges all the way around and then doing the reds all the way around. And once you finish that, you might be okay, but you're probably looking at I don't know, 30, 45 minutes at least doing the glazing method. 15 minutes, you could easily be done in 15 minutes using the dry brushing method.
Okay.
Dry brushing won't look as good as the glazing. So it really is about a matter of what's the outcome that you're looking for, what you're hoping to do. If you're like to try and get some good color that evokes a feel from the miniature, then it's probably going to be fine just to have a little dry brush and it will look good on tabletop. If you're looking for something to really really look detailed and that you can pick up and you can inspect at like a close distance and go, oh yeah, that's a really, really nice model, I like that, then you're going to want to look into glazing, and it's just going to be using the time investment to get that good outcome.
All right. How many have you done that for in your Space Marine army?
All my Space Marines are on a dry brush base.
All of them?
Every last one of them, yep.
Good.
The more recent ones are on cork. The previous ones are on foam board, which is a sort of, it's not quite polystyrene. You sometimes called poster board. It's basically like a polystyrene-like substance that you sort of would use. I don't know, if you staple things onto it. Say, if you just wanted to like hammer together a semi-rigid structure for presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do think it gives it a really nice touch, really. As you say, it kind of it brings back into the lore side of things. You know, they're what planet that they're from. But I do think that it also, the fact that, you know, it gives the impression that they've come from a very, very extreme environment, that they are probably very tough. So I do think actually it's very fitting for the army that you've done something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really nice touch.
There are some folks who go a step further with lava bases, and they like They do sort of the same sort of thing that I've described so far, but then they go ahead and they grab sort of crack paint.
Mm,
For example, like Martian Iron Earth, I think GW makes one that's on red, but then they put that down and then paint it in black. And you get these like nice little cracks that then show through to the lava, the textures that you painted underneath, and that works really well.
yeah. Okay. So I think I'll bring it back to discussing more about on the tabletop
Sure.
and um your how you play them. I think of course we know that the Space Marines at the moment are been really nice, we can say. um but is there anything you think that you would like to see an improvement on in terms of like the rules and where they kind of go into ninth edition?
Well, Space Marines have always had this like huge range of options available to them. There's not really anything that they do badly. It's just a question of how are you gonna bring all the things together into one army to make that happen.
Mm,
Where would I like to see Space Marines develop? I think every Space Marine is a hero in his own right, and I'd love to look at means of we got the successor chapters. Take two
yeah.
rules and customize them together. I'd love to see something similar for, say, a warlord trait or relics, like a build your own, a sort of like a workshop kind of thing, um,
Mm,
to really explore that level of customization. I'm really all about the customization, the theme of an army. I expect it to play hell on the staff at Games Workshop having to balance that kind of system. But
yeah.
even if it's just placed into a narrative play structure, I'm really interested to
Mm,
see the Crusade system and how that really is going to play out, because it might facilitate something like this. For that, I've just looked through the General's Handbook 2020 for Age of Sigmar, and I absolutely love the Anvil of Apotheosis there, which allows you to
oh
build
yeah.
your own characters. It's just
Yeah.
really good.
Uh, yeah, and I think as we mentioned like some time ago, it was a bit more customizable your characters. And I think for us, we tend to play more narrative play. So it would be good. It would be
A
better for
pseudo
our experience because we like
competitive
having a
narrative play.
personal. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, I mean, yeah. I mean, I can just imagine that would be incredibly hard to balance because I can guess some people find some really, sweaty combos.
Oh yeah,
um,
like if it was just
but
something like, oh, this relic gives you this attack profile, and then you combine it with a different relic that then says, choose the attack profile of one of your weapons, um, and give it, I don't know, +1 damage, +1 AP, and you did that with like a flamer. D6 automatic hits with a strength 4 AP -1, 2 damage. I'm not sure where exactly that would come in, but I don't know. I mean, maybe with Terminators, if you can put them up onto their invulnerable save anyway with the AP -1, 2 damage is going to kill them outright.
Mm. Hmm, yeah. Um, I mean, I definitely would like to see some more customization coming in. So we'll see. Because I think that Age of Sigmar tends to be um, testing. They get to test the waters with different things. Because of course I think 40k is bigger. So it's interesting because with Age of Sigmar, I think at the same time they've also been able to they want it to also be its own thing as well. So it depends whether they'll be wanting to what elements they'll decide to bring over to 40k and which ones they'll decide not to leave in Age of Sigmar. But I do feel like the
Yeah.
customization stuff could be something that they'll want to then later on bring into 40k. Hopefully, we'll see. um, so I think that's everything I've got. Is
Yeah,
there anything else you want to add?
I think we've had a really great little discussion here. We are pulling up now on the 45-minute mark, so for risk of actually boring all of our future audience, don't think we have you guys yet, but we're looking forward to when you come.
Yeah.
To avoid boring them to death, I think we'll call it here. And if you've got any questions, rather, please do go ahead and leave it in the comments down below. We're going to be trying to keep on top of our community, and at least for the more recent videos, be able to reply to you guys and really engage this conversation. Legion of Miniatures is about building up this community, and we're looking forwards to really exploring all of the varieties around tabletop games with you guys, and just providing you a place to come and ask your questions, or for us to ask questions ourselves, and really just look forward to sharing this experience with you. So go ahead and like this video. It'll help us out, I assume. I don't pretend to know exactly how YouTube functions yet. But people say this is the thing people say, right? So go ahead and hit a like. There's a bell for a subscribe button. Go and enjoy the internet's kids, and and we'll look forward to seeing you guys next time.
All right. See you next time.
Cheerio, guys.